We're in the book of Exodus. Some very exciting things in the book of Exodus. And we're going to read the book of, this book we have here, Colin DeLeach, Volume 1. And I actually did read it. See, all of it, the whole thing. It's very important. It's hard to read because a lot of it's in Latin and German and Greek and Hebrew, but I'm acquainted with those languages, so I can do that. So anyway, we'll do our best to do that. Get our phone working here correctly, hopefully. We'll read a little bit from the Hebrew to begin with. Moses has left Egypt now. 40 years Moses was in Egypt. And he's going to take off and he's going to go to Midian. And he's going to meet Jeter. His name is Jeter, his name is Jethro, his name was Ruel, and his name is Ru. These are all names, different names that they call this priest of Midian. Now this priest of Midian was also a counselor to Pharaoh. And you can see that in the book of Jasher, 67th chapter, verse 24 through 41, where he counseled Pharaoh. Now, his name Ruel means friend of God. Ru means friend. Jeter means preeminence. Jethro means preeminence also. Rakul means Jehovah is a friend. And these are all the names of Jethro or Jeter or Ruel or whatever. He is Abraham's like great-grandson. His wife that he took from among the Midianites, she had all these sons, and now here is one of the descendants of those. Let's read here now. And it says, and to the priest of Midian there were 7 daughters. And all the females came and they drew water. Now how many times do we have women going to the well to draw water in the Bible?
Many times.
Many times. Many times. The women and the water well, and there's where romance takes place. So many times, isn't it? Romance at the well. So they came and they drew water, and the females filled the troughs. The women, by the way, in the Bible, the hard work and hard labor was women's work. The men fought wars and whatever, and went hunting and guarded the families. The women did the hard labor. Women worked hard. Women are strong. They're really strong. They really have a lot of endurance, more than a man does in so many ways. And the females came and they drew and they filled the water troughs to water their flocks. And the flocks there is sheep and goats, basically here. Now, this man is Abraham's grandson, Genesis 25, 1 through 4, from Keturah, okay? Now this priest had Adam's rod. Did you catch that?
What?
This priest had Adam's rod.
Oh.
The rod that Adam held in his hand that had the lineage of the people of God. And they say, the book of Jasher says, that this is the rod that God held in his hand when he created the heavens and the earth. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now you've heard about the sword and the stone, haven't you? The sword and the stone. This is where a stone was, a sword was stuck in a stone, and only the man that was honored would be honored to take that stone out. Many people tried to pull it out of the stone, but they couldn't do it. But the man that was supposed to pull it out reached up there and just pulled it right out. Now this rod, according to the book of Jasher, was out in Jethro's garden, and no man could pull it up. And it had a sapphire stone in the head of it, and it was an almond tree branch. Now it said, if God created the heavens and the earth and held this in his hand, how did he have an almond tree branch? That's no problem for God at all. He had an almond tree branch before there was ever almond tree planted. This is the first almond tree branch. And a sapphire stone in the top of it. Well, anyway, it was out there in the garden. The Bible doesn't tell us this, but the book of Jasher tells us what happened around here. The Bible makes reference to these many things, but sometimes the book of Jasher fills in. And to water the flocks of their father. Is this interesting so far? No. Wayomer Haroim Wagashum Wayagam Moshe Wayashayin Wayashek Eth Sanam. And they came, the one shepherding. Now these are guys. It's masculine plural. Cal participle, the verb here is, or the participle is. And the shepherding ones came, these are the men, the wild marauding shepherds came. And they drove away these girls. They drove their sheep away, they drove them away. Now remember, in the Bible, there are some very strong men in the Bible. Samson. But how about Jacob? Jacob was a strong man. He could move a rock over the stone, over a well, that 3 or 4 or 5 people it took to move, but he moved it by himself. And of course the men stood back there aghast. Wow! Did you see that? Now something's going to happen here. Moses is a very strong man too. For 40 years Moses had lived in Pharaoh's house and learned all of the mechanics of the whole nation of Egypt. Now he knew his mother and father and brothers and sisters and all of his family. The book, not the book, but the movie Exodus, Cecil B. Mill shows him that he didn't know his family. And he goes there and you know, wow, this is really my mom, this is really my dad, this is really my brothers and sisters. But he was raised with them. Pharaoh paid his mother to nurse him, and that took place several years. And they arose. And Moses, he delivered them. Moses whipped one man whipped all these guys. Now these guys probably, there were head shepherds, but they had servants and slaves among them. Moses whipped them all. Now Moses in Egypt, he had killed a man. The book of Jasher says, the Bible says he killed a man, hid him in the sand. But the book of Jasher says that one of his brethren came to him and said, this Egyptian came in my home and tied me up and had sex with my wife right there and beat me up and threatened to kill me. He wanted my wife. Moses killed him. Well, then he took off. There was a warrant on Moses' head. There was a warrant for his arrest and actually murder. They were going to execute him. So he takes off down to Midian. And he goes down here. Now, if Moses could kill this Egyptian, which basically had swords and water, of course Moses did also. Now Moses comes here and he runs these people off. All of them. And he watered their goats and sheep and flock. Tizanam. Et tizanam. That's the word for it, and it means small sheep and goats. Not big cattle. They didn't have any cattle there, evidently. And the women came unto Ruel. They call him Ruel here. That means friend of God, their father. And then it says here, and he said, why have you hurried back? Why, what are you doing here so early? Usually you're late bringing the sheep back. Why have you heard? Second person feminine plural PL perfect. Why have you hurried? Why are you in such a hurry? They're rushing back to come. It's still day. And of course this is Abraham's grandson now, through Keturah. Why have you got here so quick? And they, all the females said, all the girls, all the 7 daughters were speaking at once. All of them affirmed what each one of them said. There was a guy, an Egyptian came. And when these guys came to molest us and chase us away, after we'd already drawn all this water, they come and they drive their herds in and they drink up all the water that we have already drawn, and then we have to draw more water and wait for our animals to water, to drink, and then we come home usually, and that's why we're so late all the time, and we're early today because of an Egyptian. And it says, and they said an Egyptian, a Mithri is what they call him, he rescued us, he saved us. Third person masculine singular, Hiphel perfect. He saved us from the hand of the shepherding ones, of these marauding shepherds. And also drawing water. He drew water. He did our work for us. He drew the water. This is an unusual, this guy is strong, Dad. He is a real, he's an atlas. He's a bodybuilder, except he's not on steroids. And he doesn't go to the gym. He's a strong guy. And he drew for us, watered us, and all of our sheep and goats. And then he said unto his daughters, where is this subject? Where is this guy that I can sell one of my daughters to? Where is this prospective customer? And then, have you left him? Where have you leave him? The man. Call him and let him eat food. Let him eat bread and let him eat food. Come on, bring him in here now. See what kind of business we can get into. He's going to find out that this is one of his long-lost relatives. Vayoel Moshe leshavet et Haish v'yetin et Tisaporo v'to li Moshe. And he instructed Moses to dwell, the man, Moses, and he gave Little Bird. His daughter is named Little Bird, Zipporah, Little Bird. That's her name, Little Bird. And he gave Little Bird, his daughter, to Moses. I told you there was a used car salesman here in the background someplace. He gave her to him. You know, this guy is going to protect them. These marauding shepherds are not going to be bothering this man anymore. Now it says in the background, that Moses went out into the garden and he said, what is this rod doing here? And he just pulls the rod out, like out of rock, and it's in his hand. And Rule says, that is the man. That is the man. This is the one that shall lead God's people. So he pulls this rod out, and later on it's going to be called Aaron's rod, because he's going to give it to Aaron, and Aaron will perform all the miracles in Egypt. It says here, and she bore a son to him, and she called his name Gershon, because he had pilgrimed, or he kept on pilgriming, and had pilgrimed. I have in the land, in a strange land. I'm pilgriming, and I'm residing and pilgriming as a RV camper, you know. He's going to be full-time RVer in this land, so to speak. He's a pilgrim in the land. And it came after many days, actually 40 years now. 40 years takes place. 40 years Moses is in Egypt. 40 years he's herding sheep for Reuel, and he's building up his tribe, so to speak. And he died, the king of Egypt. The king of Egypt, the Pharaoh of Egypt, died. And they groaned and moaned. And by the way, they groaned and moaned, Israel, because of hard slaving treatment. Marilyn, you were a slave for 60 years of your life. It's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard work. They made you get out there and work and do work that you shouldn't have been doing. Up on houses, tarring roofs and painting and scraping fences and scraping up old linoleum and rent houses and putting them up and putting it back and working out in the yard and just doing all kinds of stuff. Just trimming trees, climbing up in the roof, doing all kinds of things, hard labor out there without any tools and trying to fix things without parts. That's what these people were doing here in Egypt. They were slaving. And it says, and they cried, and their cry is feminine cry, is what it is. It's in Hebrew it's feminine, but it's crying like a woman in pain and labor. They cried like a woman in labor. And their cry went unto Elohim from the slaving ones. And he heard Elohim, their groaning, crying in labor, their lamentations, and he remembered, Elohim remembered the covenant of God, the covenant that he made with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And he saw, and Abraham saw and kept on seeing the sons of Israel, and he knew them. He knew them. And Moses, he became a shepherd of flocks. He shepherded flocks for 40 years. He was in Pharaoh's palace and ruled for 40 years. Now he's going to be a shepherd for 40 years, and he's going to learn to care and take care of sometimes his disobedient little children. Goats are very disobedient, aren't they? Marilyn, goats are disobedient, aren't they? They are ornery, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been around animals all your life, and goats are a problem sometimes. I had a goat when Marilyn and I got married. I had a goat called Dakota, named her Cutie. She was a white Angora goat, and she had long horns about like that. And Cutie was a pain in the neck sometimes, wasn't she? If you go on the website, you can see her butting Dakota in the back of the seat as she's leading her behind her pony Peanut, driving her. And all the time, Cutie was in trouble. In trouble. We had, I would go to Lakeside School. I taught for 8 years over there, teaching the people how to read. And as a volunteer teacher. And they came to the house several times, and when people would come to the house, if somebody was in the yard, Cutie was out there in the pasture. She'd come up there and she'd stand up on her hind legs and she'd look at them, and she'd hit the fence with her head as hard as she could hit it, knock the boards out of the fence sometimes. Now these are the kind of things that Moses is getting acquainted with, these ornery goats and sheep. Sheep are more cooperative.
They are.
They are. Goats are goats. They're ornery. And he was shepherding flocks of sheep and goats. And Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, And he led the flocks behind the wilderness, and he came unto the mountain of God, Elohim. The mountain of God. He's talking about Mount Sinai here. Wayera, it says, Malak, Hadavar, Elah, Be La Blat, Esh, Matok, Hasane, Wayar, Wihane, Hasane, Boer. Biash, Wihashane, Inanu, you call. And I read that. I want to go back and tell you a little bit about it here. And he appeared. Look at that word, Wayera. Wayera means he saw. He saw something. Now, the word Jehovah Jireh, that is basically from this type of thing. It's Jireh, Jireh. He saw, basically, and you can even put in that word, he saw Jehovah. And he saw a malak, an angel of Hadavar, of the word or Jehovah, and in a flame of fire from the middle of a blackberry bush. That's what it says in Hebrew, a blackberry bush. He is this bush is Hasane, and that is a blackberry bush. A wild blackberry or raspberry bush. And if you go up on the traditional Mount Sinai today, they have a bush up there that they said it's a bush that was burning. And it's a wild raspberry or blackberry bush. You can look that up on page 702 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. It's there. And he looked and saw, and behold, the thorn bush kept on burning. This just kept on burning, 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 burning. Ba'er. Now, St. Catherine's monastery up there on Mount Sinai, like I said, has this bush. And by the way, they've got some of the oldest Bibles in the world and writings from the very early times there. Burning in fire, ba'ish, in fire, we hasane, and in this wild blackberry bush, and not it was consumed. The bush wasn't burned up. It kept on burning. Wayomer Moshe. And he said, Moses, I shall turn away now and see a sight. He looks over and he sees this bush burning, and it's not going to burn up. It just keeps on burning. It's like it's got a natural gas flame in it. The bush just does not burn up. I'll see this great Haggadale. I'll see this great thing. And why not this bush burns up? The blackberry bush. Now, Jasher on chapter 79, 1 through 4 tells you about this. And then we have something very unusual here. We don't see this happening anyplace else in the Bible, but now it does. Now, these people back there at that period of time made shoes out of two animals, pretty much. One of them was donkeys, and one of them was camels. Because they would kill camels, and they would take their hide and make shoes out of it, sandals. All they were is sandals. They make these sandals out of them. Now, a donkey and a camel are both what? Unclean animals according to the law of Moses, which will come later. And he saw Jethro, because he had turned aside, or Jehovah that is, he saw Jehovah that he had turned aside to see, and Jehovah called unto him. Jehovah Elohim called from him from the middle of the bush. And he said, Moses, Moses. And he said, behold me. Look at me. Look at me. And he said, do not come near here. Don't come near here. Pull off your sandals. Take your shoes off. Why? Because they were made from an unclean animal. Pull off your shoes from off your feet, because this place that you're on right now, that you're standing upon, is ground of Kadesh. Kadeshu. Kadesh means holy. Kadesh HaKadeshim. Later on will be the Holy of Holies. Kadesh, it's holy. It's sacred. It's sacred. Now, the Quran has different explanations of this, and also in the culture of the Jews, which is right over there. That book right over there, as you're looking at it, it tells you this according to the Quran. And there was a scholar named Cobb, and Moses was wearing donkey skin shoes, which are the skins of a dead animal which is unclean. And so he said, take your shoes off your feet. Now let's go back from here, and we're in 3 and 5 now. And let's go back here and see what Moses saw. See what he saw. See how many minutes we got here now. 26 minutes. We'll start this and for about another 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll come back to it again. Now, let me give you a little history of the patriarchs. The patriarchs mean what? Patriarch, patriarche. That means the head fathers. It means the head men, that the fathers were the priest of the family. Now, if we go back here all the way to the time of Adam, how did God communicate with these patriarchs? How did he do that? How did God communicate with the patriarchs? Directly. He walked among them, and they saw the face of God and the form of God walking around in the pre-incarnate form of Jesus. So that went on all the way from Adam and Seth and all the way up to Noah. And God walked with them, and they saw God. They saw God. God was walking with them, but the earth became so unholy, unkadesh, unholy, wicked, that God no longer walked among mankind. And then he would, by special revelation, he would appear unto different ones. Did God appear unto Abraham? Yes. But did he appear unto all other men? No. But he appeared unto Abraham, didn't he? And did God appear unto Jacob?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did God appear unto Rebekah?
Yeah.
Yes. Did God appear unto Hagar?
Yeah.
Yes. Did God appear unto Moses? Yes. But these are special occasions now. Sometimes God will appear unto them in a hypnotic trance or in a dream. Hypnose is a Greek word. A hypnotic trance is a dream. Do you ever dream dreams in your dreams or when you're sleeping? Most people do. Dogs dream, don't they? You ever seen a dog dream? They'll be kicking, running, doing all kinds of stuff, yeah. How about a horse? Does a horse dream? Yeah, horses dream. Goats dream. Sheep dream. Sometimes cattle dream. They're having dreams. Well, God revealed himself unto these people in dreams. Now, Jesus Christ, as he walked in this earth, we don't know what he really looked like, but the Bible doesn't tell us too much about what he looks like. But there are extra biblical accounts of what Jesus looked like. There are more extra biblical accounts about Jesus than there are in the Bible. Did you know that? Some historians hated him, the Jewish side. They hated him. They talked about what he looked like. What did they say he looked like? He had blonde hair. What was the average Jew had? They had dark brown hair or black hair, didn't they? They had real burly looking beards, and they had brown eyes, didn't they? One of the things they said about Jesus, Now Jesus is the incarnate God. John 1:14, Kai Logos Sarx Agenital, and the Word, Jehovah, became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. It says no man has seen God at any time, but the only begotten God, that one being in the bosom of the Father, he let himself out from eternity into space and time. So all of those people in Jerusalem saw Jehovah. What did he look like?
Blonde and blue eyes.
He had blonde hair and blue eyes. Now the Romans, many of them had blonde hair and blue eyes. And you know what the Jews said about Jesus? That he was an illegitimate child, that his mother had an affair with a Roman soldier, and this child, to prove that, had blonde hair and blue eyes. Well, evidently, Jesus had blonde hair and blue eyes when he spoke to Abraham. He had blonde hair and blue eyes when he spoke to Adam and Seth and Noah. Because this was a pre-incarnate Christ. The face of God revealed. The face of God revealed. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for your word. Please use us as we teach and study your word, as you reveal yourself unto us. Make it real to all those out there, wherever they are in the world. In Jesus' name we pray.